All right, good evening. This is Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 meeting of the Town of Berlin Planning Board. As a preliminary matter, please note this meeting is being recorded and some of the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. That vacation t-shirt that you decided to wear tonight, anything you intend to or not, screen share on your computer. Anything that you broadcast will be captured and recorded forever and ever and may possibly wind up as a TikTok video to be shared amongst your neighbors and friends. This is Tom Sanford, Chair of the Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me prior to me calling the meeting to order. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jay Teach.
Here.
Timothy Wheeler.
Yeah.
Carolyn McDonald.
Here.
Tom Sanford here. With a quorum of the board present, I call this meeting to order at 7:55 p.m. Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. This is an open meeting of the planning board being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's, executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. Specific information and general guidelines for the remote participation by members of the public can be found at the Town of Berlin website. The governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows and encourages us to participate remotely. For this meeting, the planning board is convening using the Zoom platform as posted on the agenda, which includes links to the public to join this meeting. Meeting ground rules, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they have concluded their remarks, I will invite each board member by name to provide commentary, questions, and penetrating insights and/or motions. Please hold all your insights till your name is called. Board members and speakers on the agenda, please remember to mute your telephone or computer when you're not speaking. Please speak clearly to ensure accurate minutes of the meeting are recorded. And for any response, please wait until you're yielded the floor and state your name before speaking. If board members wish to engage in conversation with each other, please do so through me to avoid multiple conversations happening at the same time. Lastly, please note that each vote in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Thank you all for your understanding and cooperation. So at this moment, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting from last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions?
Was last meeting the one that ended at 11:12 p.m.?
Yes. Hearing no discussions or questions, I'll ask you to vote. Jay Teach,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
and Tom Sanford, aye. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. All right.
Tim, did you update your document that you presented to us last week after the meeting?
Did I?
No, did Tim?
Which document?
Well, before the last meeting, you sent out a revised
The articles for the warrant, you mean?
articles, yeah.
Yes.
And we had some
Yeah.
discussion and made some changes, which I was scribbling down as we were having the meeting.
I updated them and delivered them to the select board.
Last week,
Did I not send them to everybody?
I got a copy of them. Did you not, Jay? They were emailed around.
Thought they were.
Something else from you, I thought. All right, yeah, because I'm just going to incorporate them into the minutes. That way.
Yeah, good. No. Good.
I read through them. It looked like we captured everything that we had talked about. So
Yeah.
And is it too late to change them, or that's done?
Oh, if you got something, we could fiddle. They haven't gone to press or anything.
Right,
They haven't
right.
even, the selectmen met last night and approved a number of articles for the warrant, but they didn't go to any of the ones that we had submitted. So you know, they haven't gone to town council yet. So if there was some subtle little changes or even major changes, we could probably make those. So, yeah. What do you got?
Well, I was talking to Abby about the issue with noise down there,
Right.
19 Carter, and it seemed like the best out. I'm trying to remember what the discussion was at the at our meeting last time. It seems like the best solution to the problem there is to have some kind of permit, like a seasonal permit.
Right. Yeah, so our language says that, you know, that you're not obligated to live by the noise bylaw if you have a permit from the select board. And I assumed that our conversation with them would be to encourage them to be willing to enter into permit issuing, and in some instances, issue a permit that was for a multiple event series, you know, that sort of thing. So, but that's not a zoning bylaw. That's a town. That's the selectmen essentially issuing permits for events like they do already, you know, so.
So we don't want to put any kind of we don't want to have any discussion about what the permit contains. And
Well, I think we could go to the selectmen and say, we've got this article sponsored. At some point, they're going to ask us to come and present what we want. And I think that would be an ideal opportunity. And we can lobby individually on this, on, you know, we can talk to individual selectmen and women, select board people. I think individually we could do that. And then when we have a more formal presentation before the board, we can say, we really believe that there needs to be some mechanism whereby you issue the permit that supplies the protection that any of these events would need, so they could function without having to worry about the noise bylaw.
yeah, I'm kind of specifically wondering about whether we want to pave a path to seasonal as opposed to individual permits.
I don't think we
Individual permits doesn't-
specified.
Right.
We
I know
just
we didn't,
said
but I was
if it's a
wondering whether we should.
permanent event, it
I'm just
doesn't
wondering whether
have
we
to.
should.
No, because there's going to be permanent events that like Old Home Day. If there was going to be a band at the gazebo for the day, that's a permanent event. That is a one-time, you know, annual event that wouldn't need to live within the parameters of the noise bylaw for that permanent event. So if we specify once or seasonal, I think not specifying it is the better path. Just if it's permitted. Why, what would be the benefit of calling out seasonal or not?
It might make it easier for the select board to incorporate that into their permitting process. We would
A
have kind of
seasonal permit?
broken the ice, you know what I mean? Because otherwise we're not solving the problem. Like it turns out they, you know, for some reason find it difficult to allow seasonal permits. Then you've got it's a pretty big process with a lot of people involved to get a permit.
Well, do you see a
You gotta do that
seasonal,
10 times, you know, every week you got to do that all over again.
yeah, do you see a seasonal permit as a permit that comes in and says, here are the 10 dates and the times, and this is when we're going to operate? Or do you see it as, we want to operate whenever there's an opportunity to have a performer for these
Probably
months?
the former, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it's going to be every Saturday night for 10 weeks or something like that.
yeah. I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with the planning board composing a letter in advance of our presentation to the select board that says, you know, we found ourselves in a situation where we didn't feel that the zoning bylaw would protection of the avenue forward for enterprises like 19 Carter to be under the regulation, be compliant, but we did include language that talked about permitted events, and we do believe that the select board should be prepared to issue permits. And we also believe that in some instances, it ought to be a permit that's not just single event every time you want to have an event, you come in. I mean, there ought to be some sort of opportunity to, I mean, let's say I wanted to do, well, what could I do? Farm to table dinners or something like that, you know, where there was
Right,
going to be
let's say
live music and.
Right, and you wanted to do one every other Saturday.
Yeah,
all
I mean,
summer.
it would be so much simpler to come in and just get that blanket request. So I'm comfortable with us generating a letter that introduces the fact that we believe they need to be able to issue permits to deal with the noise issue, and offer protection to those events that they want to permit, and that we don't see any harm in introducing the notion that there ought to be multiple dates that get permitted at the same time. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Is that what you're trying to aim at?
Well, see, I'm not sure what would cause the select board not to do that, even with a letter from us. But if they had a problem with it and they felt uncomfortable doing it, if we had it referenced in the bylaw, then you've got the voters endorsing it. So it's a difference between, us endorsing it versus town meeting endorsing it, which gives them a lot more confidence in being able to execute, to implement it.
So adding something like, because a sound bylaw, how would you word it? Would you say whether a single event or a seasonal event?
Something like that.
Something like that.
So what we say is sounds emitted during and associated with parades, public gatherings, or sporting events for which permits have been issued that said parades, public gatherings, or sporting events in one city or town do not cause noise in another city or town. So sounds emitted during and associated with parades, public gatherings, or sporting events for which permits have been issued. So what we want to, you want to include language that would say such permits would be issued for single or multiple dates, and issued by the select board through a normal application process or something like that. Just add that additional sentence.
Yeah, something like that. And then do you want to limit it to a year? So that they have, someone has to do it every year, not every week.
Annually.
Yeah.
Is a zoning bylaw really is a sound bylaw the place for laying the groundwork for how the permitting goes?
Well, it's one way of getting public attention and vote on it. I don't know if there's another way.
And right, I totally understand that
Maybe there's
goal,
another
but
way to
I'm
do it.
just, does it belong in a sound bylaw?
Well, the other thing that we could do is we're going to have to write explanations for all of these. And we could include in the explanation the notion that we really believe that it's imperative that the selectmen set up the structure that allows for the permitting of single day or multiple day events on an annual basis, on an annual, permit process or something like that. We could emphasize that that's the direction we think they ought to go.
You could do that.
Because we are going to supply an explanation for all these. And then the public would, in the warrant, see our explanation that, outlined why we don't have to speak specifically to 19 Carter, but I think a lot of people would understand that that's what we were getting at.
That might work.
I'm perfectly willing to write the explanation for the bylaw regarding service establishments.
So the other thing is that it says parades, public gatherings, or sporting events. So where's concerts fit in that?
And we could add concerts.
Public
gathering.
gatherings.
I mean, we can say concerts specifically if you want. Yeah.
We kept it, so public gathering would be concerts, hold home days,
Right, whatever.
coffee clutch, whatever you
Yeah.
want.
It might be better to put concerts in so that people know what they're voting for. So that if they have an issue with it, it comes out and can be discussed at the town meeting.
Yeah.
It's kind of hidden, right? 'Cause I
But do you
wouldn't have
want
thought
to,
public
do you
gatherings.
want to, do you want to monkey with the language a little and write a description as to an explanation of the reason that we're putting the noise bylaw in there?
I could try, yeah.
Or do you want me to try and then I'll send it to you and you can look at it and.
We're probably more likely to get done if that were the case.
At least he's honest.
It's going to rain tomorrow afternoon. I'll work on it. Yeah. I'm not pruning blueberries tomorrow.
And when it says those things in one city or town do not cause noise in another city or town, is that because it's from the state?
I picked that up from language that was in the state stuff. Yeah. So.
But should it
I mean,
say instead of one city or town, should it say from Berlin or something?
It's like when the fireworks go off in Hudson at the high school and we have to put up with it, right? I mean, shut them down. I didn't.
When I hear the football games on a
Right.
warm September evening.
Yeah.
I would just leave out in one city or town.
Okay.
Right.
I'll massage it.
Yeah. Because I think, even though what we're trying to do is clean this up and make it, durable and reasonable, it is addressing a specific issue that I think people should understand, that should surface so that nobody's surprised. They think we're sliding something through without showing what prompted it being discussed.
Yeah.
Sure, but it also needs to cover more than just that single thing.
Absolutely. Which is why it's, you've got the parades. I wouldn't take those three things out. I just maybe add concerts, outdoor concerts. Or I guess any concert.
Doesn't have to be outdoor.
Right?
Yeah. All right. I'll take a crack at it.
Yeah, and this whole DBA thing's gonna, I don't know, there's a good solution for.
Yeah, when I look at other towns, it's everybody, well, some don't even bother. Some it's in the Board of Health regs, some it's in the, the zoning bylaw, some it's in the town regs, Some says 5 decibels above ambient.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Pretty
Some
low.
say 10 above ambient. Whew.
But the other problem is decibels really doesn't, if what you're trying to quantify is how annoying a sound is.
Mhm.
Decibels doesn't do it.
Because, 80 decibels of white noise wouldn't bother you. And 40 decibels of somebody banging on a drum would drive you out of your mind, right? So it's, I mean, I don't have a solution to that problem, but
No, and like Evie said, you know, we're allowing somebody to run their lawnmower, you know,
right.
that's a hell of a lot more obnoxious,
Yep.
but
But you can't
and who
not
knows?
allow them.
It may get voted down.
Right.
The town meeting may say, you guys, what are you trying to do? You know, I've
So
seen that before.
so one of the things that we were fixing was the time discrepancy. Is that a separate thing? Or is that included in this
That's in it.
larger?
It's in it, yeah.
Because we rewrote the whole, we've essentially taken
Gutted it,
everything else
started it
that's
again.
there out and put this whole new piece
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Well, so that'll be interesting.
Well, it isn't a lot of change. I mean,
No,
there's the time, there's an increase in the decibel from 55 to 60. There's this section on parades and concert, I mean, you know, events and stuff. So
Yeah. As long as we're not limiting the amount of noise that horses can make, that'd be,
Is the horses playing instruments?
I don't know. They were doing something in the middle of the night last night. I don't know what.
They were
Well, the wind
holding
was
on. There
blowing.
was so much wind.
they were freaked out.
Oh, is it
Oh my
windy?
God, a tree fell on one or something.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it was windy. Whew.
Mhm.
Yeah, all day today was windy. All right.
Good. All right, I'll play with that.
So when should we hold public hearings for these articles?
Calendar, please. Town meeting is May 2nd.
Right.
And we're sure that it's gonna be May 2nd this year?
We have, yeah, I think.
I think the
so.
COVID thing is done. I mean, I don't think something's gonna happen that's gonna delay that.
Okay,
So
Put out a notice, so.
excellent.
if we wanted to have the hearing on the 12th of April, it would have to be in the newspaper on April 1st. And March 25th, which means it would have to go to the paper on the 21st, the day before we meet again. And a lot of these where's my Word events here? The document is 1, 2, 3, 4 pages long. Non-conforming uses. I think I can probably give a reasonable synopsis of the non-conforming use changes, so we don't have to print that whole thing. And the noise one, we can probably get the gist of that across without printing the whole thing. The floor area, we might have to print the whole piece.
Can
Home
we, instead of printing the whole thing, can we link it to our page on My Town Government and upload the document there?
You have to give, you can't just say, we're going to change floor area ratio. I don't think. And go to our website or, go to whatever. You're supposed to be able to give them enough of a hint that they'd understand that it was going to impact them or not bother them, is the way I've always interpreted it. So,
Okay.
but we can cut this down enough so that the types of changes we'd make to noise that we might vote on the next time we meet would still be hinted at in the description enough so people would understand that if they were concerned, they ought to show up at the hearing, That's what the Attorney General's looking at is, did you give a description that was clear enough so people would understand that their rights were potentially being impacted by what you were proposing? So,
So we're saying April 12th.
we could wait till later and do it the 26th. There's no harm probably. It's not like we're going to make some significant modifications in that week before town meeting probably. And that gives us a little more time. We get to meet again before we finalize all the language. The selectmen were not, when we left, they weren't sure whether they were going to meet next week.
Right.
So they wouldn't be voting to send any more articles to the town council next week. We can check, see if they're going to meet, but then they wouldn't meet till the night before we meet again, right?
Right.
And if they did vote, we could tell them that we might be modifying that noise section. It probably wouldn't do any harm because, I can reach out to the select board and say, we want to discuss this particular article with you because it has some impact on your workload. You could even ask them not to send it off to town council till we meet on the 22nd, That I don't think that's unreasonable.
Just that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want me to do that, I'm perfectly willing to reach out to him.
And do we want to invite any of the select board members who may want to join us that night? Or do we want to go to one of their meetings to discuss it?
Usually they've asked us to come and explain why the articles are being proposed.
Sure, but where, like you said, this one does kind of involve them. Do we want to invite them to be part of that?
Or one of them anyway. I can
Right.
say, if one of you wants to attend our meeting on the 22nd, we'll be happy to explain what's going on. Yeah. Want me to do that?
I think that's a good idea.
It might just help the back and forth a little bit.
Now on the 22nd, I talked to Tom about having what's her name? Faye
Yeah.
Faye from Central Mass
Mass.
come and help us launch the housing production plan and the housing portion of the master plan. At, what do we say, 8 o'clock or something? And you're not
8
going to be here,
o'clock.
Tom, right?
I will not.
You're going to Costa Rica, huh?
No.
Oh,
I
it
am
doesn't,
going- Hmm?
doesn't sound like anywhere fun.
Oh,
No,
it
no,
is.
no, I'm going to, I'll be in Puerto Rico.
Oh, second favorite place.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Quick trip.
I'm planning a trip myself, actually, to Clinton tomorrow.
Excellent.
Clinton, Massachusetts?
Yeah, Clinton. Yeah,
Wow.
Janet's letting me have the car, and I'm gonna go over there.
Woohoo.
Go to the Aubuchon,
Really big reservoir there, right?
Aubuchon's hardware store, or whatever it is.
It'll be an expensive trip with the way gas is.
I know.
Right?
We're not going anywhere anymore. I can't afford to drive the tractor.
475 for heating oil today.
How much?
475.
Wow.
Wow.
I was paying 265 a month ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
Pellet stove.
Okay.
So
So
I
do you
think-
want to meet on do we want the hearing on the later date then in
I
April?
think that's wise.
Okay. That gives me more time. That's fine.
I
The
just don't want us to
26th.
lose sight of it.
24th, right?
26th. April?
Yeah.
April
Oh,
26th.
Yep.
And that means it has to be in the paper on the 15th and the 8th. Am I right? 2 weeks prior. No, the 26th. 1 week, 2 weeks. It has to be in on the 8th and the 1st. So I'd have to give it to them on the 28th of March. Okay. Good. And that means we meet before we finalize it and submit it. But that gives me a chance to sort of, I can work up a draft of what the newspaper report would be, and then we can, everybody can look at that. All right,
Awesome.
good.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm retired.
So the only thing I had was continued discussion of that, of the articles, set a date, timely items, but if we wanted to talk a little bit more about our goals, we had put some goals down. We were going to think about it and come back. Does that interest people, or?
Anybody think about it?
Yeah, that's about it. What'd you say?
Did anybody think about it?
The goals?
Yeah. Oh,
Well, I mean, I was pleased with that list that we generated the last time. I thought that's a lot of good topics.
So we had River Bridge, we had the co-housing and the Affordable Housing Trust and the Town Center Initiative.
and
Well, Village Center
River
Study.
Run. What to do with River Run?
Well, River Run was part of the River Bridge discussion.
Oh,
Yeah. Because that involves all that
It was different.
workforce housing and
Right,
all those
Right.
topics.
but it dovetails into with the Affordable Housing Trust and
Yep,
all that discussion.
the production plan and the
Production
master
plan.
plan and
Yeah. Yeah. We, forget it, I won't mention it now. I was gonna say with what we would, when they were going over some of the line item budgets and things like that yesterday at the selectmen's meeting, I noticed there was two things. One was that the $5,000 for the master planning money that we
Right.
put in. They originally, can't think of, it was Margaret and the,
June?
no, it wasn't June. It was the group that gets together and decides on,
Oh, capital
Capital
planning?
Planning Committee, yeah, Capital
Yep.
Planning Committee. They specifically said that wasn't a capital planning item, but it sounds like there's a rethinking of that they want to move that out of that category and put it into capital planning, I guess, from what they were discussing last night. Did you notice that?
Yeah, they had it, they weren't clear as
No, they
to
were not.
whether they wanted it to be a separate line, I mean, separate article, stand on its own, or just be rolled into the capital budget.
Tom, Eloise has her hand up.
Oh, she's on the capital planning committee.
There we go.
Yes.
She's gone over to the dark side.
You're
Good
so
evening.
right, Tim. Greetings. The reason it was a question was because usually capital has been raised to 10,000. And you had asked for 5.
Correct, and that's why Margaret suggested that I do it the way that I did. But it seemed to me last night that they were discussing whether it would go back to capital.
Who knows? We meet tomorrow. I
Okay,
can ask then.
that's fine. I didn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, but
was
it should
just-
be clear all the way around.
Exactly,
Right, I
right.
thought 10,000 was the cutoff.
It was, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, but they've been doing 5,000 for eons. I think right after the town incorporated in 18.
You know, no, I mean, I thought for items that go to capital planning, 10,000 was the cutoff.
It is, but the discussion
It
was.
is, but this is, and it's only a
I see.
portion of a lot larger. I mean, it's, a lot of
Got
it was
it.
semantics.
Exactly,
Right.
and it's tomato, and so it was funny because the direction that I got was from people that weren't even at the meeting last night, and it was being discussed and decided by other people that are saying, oh, no, they're doing it wrong. Which I just thought was kind of interesting, but anyways, doesn't matter to me as long as we get our money.
Exactly. So I will bring your comments to the board tomorrow night.
Thank
Yeah.
you, appreciate
I'm that kind of a girl.
it.
I mean, it would, and you can use as evidence, Eloise, the fact that the housing production plan and the modification of the master plan is going to cost us 21,000. Open space
Well,
plan,
that's where they were saying it does meet the, over the 10,000 or over because it's only a small portion of
right,
a much larger plan.
and conservation, open space plans cost, you know, they can cost 15 to 20.
But you sometimes have people who only have a very small portion of the town business in their head, and they don't get the larger picture.
And so I think it's a good discussion for capital planning to have. We've decided to ask for a small amount of money on an annual basis, so the big hit to the town doesn't come. Whereas something like Shrewsbury goes to town meeting and asks for $80,000 to do their master plan every, 5 years. So to us, it's a more sympathetic way to appeal for the funds we need without crippling the town every few years. And it's a balanced approach.
It's to take it in bite size.
Right.
Right,
And what I've noticed is, and I've preached this at Central Mass for a long time, is that they now try to get towns to commit to a master plan over multiple years. So
On a
that,
rolling basis.
right.
Yeah.
So,
makes more sense.
so they don't
Sure.
necessarily follow our model, but they might do, 25,000 a year for 3 years for a town like Shrewsbury and build it in that way. And it helps Central Mass too, because
Either
Their
that
staff
or
ends up-
80,000 for Shrewsbury is equal to our 5,000.
yeah, I mean,
You know,
Right?
And that's- the trouble is that an open space plan for Berlin or a housing production plan for Berlin really does end up costing almost the same amount as it does for Shrewsbury. There's no way around that. In fact, we had a physical development committee meeting the other night, and the district local technical assistance money that our committee doles out based on proposals that we get. One of the proposals was to have the town of Auburn housing production plan paid for out of district local technical assistance money. And the committee's always said that those ought not to be paid for by that fund, that's money that individual towns need to raise and appropriate, because if we start using DLTA money for open space plans and housing production plans, that total amount of money would be assigned just to those topics. And we wouldn't do anything new at all. So as a commission, so we turned them down, but you know, they were looking for essentially the same amount of money to do their housing production plan as we were.
mhm.
There's no way around it, you know, so.
Well, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for your insight.
So back to our goals, is these the ones we want to vote on and memorialize and work on, or do we want to tweak them? What is people's pleasure? What do you think?
Well, I like them. I think there's plenty on our plate, but all these interlock so nicely, you know, working on some of these is gonna fold over into others.
Yes. And
Plus,
some of them are gonna go multiple years too.
yeah, and we're getting outside support to accomplish some of this, so we can have some more thorough discussion, and they're gonna help us lead some public forums that bring the public into the conversation. So I think all that's a plus.
I agree.
Do you agree, Jay? Because this was your
Memorialize.
brainchild, so.
Yep, we'll keep them in the minutes. Every once in a while, we'll look at them and see whether we forgot.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we do this on an annual basis, then, you know, there'll sort of be a rolling project
Agenda.
list, and
Mhm.
some may fall off, but some new ones may get added. I think it's a good approach.
And every year we're gonna have to do what happens on the boards I'm on now, which is everybody has to vote on our performance.
Our individual performance,
Our performance as a board.
everybody on the board has to
Well, no,
vote
the
on our
Members of the
performance.
board and some people in the company, management, some employees in the company, not mostly management. Every once a year, they fill out a survey from some third party about how well we're doing our job and whether we're being, you know, discriminatory and all that kind of stuff.
Well, the
We
Community
don't get paid
Preservation
that
Act-
much.
That's
Exactly.
great.
the Community Preservation Act Committee has to do an update to our plan annually, which means we add new projects that might be targeted by the different constituencies that are supported by CPA. And I thought, you know, that's really a valuable tool, because it forces those entities to assess, you know, what have they accomplished? What do they want to accomplish in the next, you know, year? And they need to put their topics on that plan, because the committee ought to use that as the reason to support a particular project. If it's not on the plan, then we're going to say, you know, where the hell did this come from? You know, are you just pulling stuff out of thin air? You know, how does this fit into the whole picture? So that's essentially what we're trying to do here with this sort of approach. I think it's good. Not
Like
the
it.
assessment part, but
Yeah. So are you looking for a motion?
For these goals?
Yes.
Sure.
Make a motion to accept for 2022 the aforementioned goals. Should we list them again?
Read them out of
Sure.
the minutes if you want.
But
The
What was
finished
that,
things
Jay?
we already started was River Bridge.
yeah,
Start things already decided was Affordable Housing Trust and Village Center Plan.
and co-housing, River Run opportunity.
Oh, that was under decide new things.
Okay,
Well,
Like-
workforce housing / co-housing.
right.
Well, we got the decide new things is River Run opportunity and affordable housing.
Okay.
you know, and did you include the Center Village? You did include the Center Village, right?
That was the number 4. Yeah,
And so that would involve complete streets,
We can put that including complete streets.
because so much of that Center Village stuff involves pedestrian traffic, bikeway, you know, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. And that then would include the rail trail discussions. Before you got here, Jay, Carolyn and I were talking about a meeting that's going to be held by the Central Mass is sponsoring a meeting that's going to be held for towns south of us that are part of, what's the name of it, Carolyn?
What's the name of what?
That trail that's below us,
airline, something or other.
Airline.
Oh,
yeah.
the Worcester,
Boston, Worcester?
Boston Worcester Airline.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me dig it up. Where did it go? They've been in touch with the East Coast Greenway, East Quabbin Land Trust, Franklin Bellingham Rail Trail Committee to talk about the Boston Worcester Airline Trail. And where did I read? Somewhere I've picked up the notion that it has an impact on us.
Well, I think they want to connect up into Berlin, potentially to hook up to the rail trail that will come through Berlin.
I read that also. It would be a north-south connection.
Right,
Hook it up maybe at the aqueduct or something.
right. That's what I thought they were talking about, was the aqueduct. The problem with using the aqueduct in Berlin, it's fine. In Northborough, I guess there's some logistical issues. I think it crosses like 5 streets or something. So they would need, and then there's another part that there's another issue with. But it certainly would be the easiest path, would be the aqueduct.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yep.
so if we say complete streets, that includes some conversations about these trail issues like the East Coast Greenway and some of these others. So that would be inclusive enough. So that would be good.
Got it.
Excellent.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I'll ask you to vote. Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Jay Teach,
Hi.
Timothy Wheeler,
aye.
and Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Excellent. So we've adopted some goals. We talked about some changes we're going to make to the zoning. Any other timely items that we want to bring up?
So again, on our agenda for the next meeting at 8, we have Faye.
Correct.
And I mean, she's saying, does the town want to create a committee to work on this master plan piece for housing and the housing production plan? We can be the committee if we wanted to, and we could invite other people to be on this enterprise with us without making it a formal committee.
It'd be easier.
That would be the simple way. And I spoke to Bob Blair, and because he's involved with Council on Aging a lot, and I spoke with Eloise. I spoke with Evie and said, we're going to have this meeting. Are you interested in participating? And they've all said they'd be happy to join in. And I talked to Eloise about James Holyoke as a realtor who there might be some benefit in having somebody like that participate. Are there other folks that we'd like to form a core with, and then see if along the way they want to volunteer to help with certain parts of it? Or when you begin to have these forums, you really want some folks in the audience that are willing to speak up and push the agenda. And I think that group, Bob Blair certainly would, Evie certainly would, Eloise certainly would. I think James might. But if there's others that we should invite to this first kickoff meeting, it'd probably be helpful to know who you might think they would be. I mean, that's 8 people. It's a pretty good. Oh, look at that. Eloise has got her hand up.
Yeah, I would be cautious to extend it beyond 8 to 10 because it'll
Yeah.
just get bogged down in its own
Yep.
inertia.
Right.
But if there's some key player, Eloise wants to say something.
Eloise?
If James Holyoke doesn't want to be on the committee, maybe he would be more than happy to serve as a consultant to the committee when we get into like multifamily, when we get into housing.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a formalized membership on a committee. It's just, if we've got this core group of 8 folks that, are saying, yeah, I can see myself trying to attend all the meetings that we have over the course of the next 8 months and go to the forums and try to stimulate conversation. The nice thing is it looks like we'll probably be able to have some real public forums and face-to-face instead of
Yeah.
Zoom. So,
Right.
although maybe we should make them a hybrid so that,
I would suggest that, and you get more participation that way.
yeah. I mean, some people might just like to listen in and raise their hand and ask a question. I mean, that certainly be fine. Yeah.
And Tim, when you get ready, it might be worthwhile to put this on the front page of the town's website.
When we get ready to go
It's
beyond
public
this.
outreach,
Yeah, definitely.
just to find out who might have an interest.
No, I think, push the buttons, all the buttons we can.
Thank you.
We got to find some way to spend your money, Eloise. Oh, she's got her hand up again, or she never took it down.
Never took it down.
There you go.
Great.
Excellent.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in with us.
Mhm.
Yeah, you started losing me about 15, 20 minutes ago, but for the
You
most
missed us
part,
though. You missed us
did.
though, didn't you?
of course I did. So I had to rush home. No, it was a good trip. I'm glad to be home. And glad I made the meeting.
Well, now we have to wish Tom bon voyage. Huh?
I
Only for one
know.
meeting.
Oh, just for one day?
One meeting.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, first
When-
let's make a motion. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask you to vote to adjourn the meeting. Timothy Wheeler,
aye.
Jay Teach,
Hi.
Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Tom Sanford, aye. Motion to adjourn.